Welcome to From Chart of Accounts Chaos to AI Confidence, a Finance Data Playbook, a roundtable panel discussion brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, Executive Director of the Controllers Council. And before I introduce our expert panelists and our partner sponsors, let me share some brief housekeeping items. This webinar is CPE eligible with 3 polling questions, so please answer each poll. If not CPE, please answer to benchmark your peers. Also, we'll have a quick survey at the end of the presentation, so please complete that. And next, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please use your GoToWebinar control panel to ask our experts questions. And finally, you'll receive a link to this webcast via email in the next 24 hours, so no need for notes or screenshots. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce our partners and sponsors, Citrin Cooperman and Venna Solutions. Citrin Cooperman is one of the largest professional service firms in the United States, one of the largest CPA and accounting firms in the US, and is also ranked 28th largest technology consulting firm in the US by Accounting Today. Citrin Cooperman digital services include Microsoft, NetSuite, Venna, of course, Salesforce, cybersecurity, and more. Citrin Cooperman is headquartered in New York City with offices nationally. Learn more at www.citrincooperman.com. And Venna is the only agentic AI-powered FP&A platform purpose-built to harness the full power of the Microsoft ecosystem, including Microsoft 365, Microsoft Fabric, and Microsoft Azure. For finance and IT teams everywhere, thousands of leading enterprises rely on Venna to connect planning, analytics, and execution. Learn more at vennasolutions.com. And with that, I'm very happy to introduce our panelists today, our speakers. Trenton Hubley is partner at Citrin Cooperman. Brian Kobler is VP of Ecosystems at Venna Solutions. And Jason Chen is Solutions Consultant at Venna Solutions. Gentlemen, welcome. And we are going to start with a poll, turns out, so let's get that launched. And that is, how confident are you today in your finance data foundation supporting AI or advanced automation? Select one of the following. So please take a few moments. All answers are anonymous and confidential. Please take a few more seconds to vote. And we'll close it out. Share results, very confident, just 17%, somewhat confident, but still issues for 33%. Low confidence, 17, not confident at all, 17. So it's a mixed bag there. Let's move on to our presentation. All right, Trent, you're going to take this away.
All right. Okay. Yeah, it's great to be here, and thank you for all your time today to engage in today's session. And so I want to start with something that I think most of you probably already feel in your gut, even if no one's saying it out loud yet. And there's a ton of pressure right now to, quote, do something with AI. And that pressure is coming from a lot of different places. It might be leadership at your company, it might be the board, vendors, maybe peers at other companies. See it all over LinkedIn, I've seen it on TV, it's everywhere. And so it's a real thing. And I'm not here to tell you that AI is overhyped or that you should pump the brakes on it. And I genuinely think it can be a game changer for the accounting and finance teams. But, and this is kind of the whole point of what I want to talk through, is that AI is an output multiplier, and it's a multiplier that doesn't care about what it's multiplying. And so how I like to think about it is, imagine you've got this advanced GPS navigation system. It's got real-time traffic, it's programmed with the stoplights, all the turn-by-turn, it's the works. But the map data it's running on is outdated. So the roads have changed, addresses are wrong, that highway exit doesn't exist anymore. And the GPS isn't going to figure that out because it's working on an old data set, but it's just going to confidently navigate you in the wrong direction. And that's the situation a lot of accounting teams are walking into right now with AI. And the tool that they're using can be best in class if it's navigating on reliable, great data, but a lot of times it's not. And it's going to give you answers that are confidently wrong, like you've probably seen with a lot of the AI tools you maybe worked with today. And so what I want to dig into is, what does being AI ready actually look like? Because again, being ready isn't having the fanciest tool. It's having a clean chart of accounts, solid dimension structures, reliable data integrations, and everything that makes the numbers trustworthy to hand over to a machine. You can go to the next slide, please, Neil. So where I'm coming from with all of this is, my background is advising and working with finance and accounting teams across various industries through software upgrades. So I've seen a lot of different data environments, the clean ones, messy ones, teams that have everything locked down and governed, and then teams that are very honest and say, yeah, we got some things held together with duct tape, and we just know where the problems lie, and we just fix them as they come up. And what I've noticed with the teams where they're navigating a messy environment is, it's not because the team is lazy or they took shortcuts. It's usually not that. It's just because the data model grew over time, and there's a new business unit, they had an acquisition, or they spun off a piece of the business. Maybe a new CFO or a new controller was put in place, and just the guidelines changed. None of that is out of the norm. That's just normal operating procedure for a lot of us. And so the problem now is that being normally messy and being AI ready there's a wide gap between the two. And AI doesn't come in and go, oh, I see what you're going for here, let me just sort this out. It doesn't have a lot of those instincts. It just learns from what's there, and it takes all your patterns, including the bad ones, and just treats them as truth. And then it scales those problems across everything that it touches. And so finance and accounting is one of the few functions where you genuinely cannot afford inconsistent outputs, because many of you have probably used like the ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude through minor tasks or in your personal lives, and you've noticed that they do make mistakes and it's not always perfect. But in those minor tasks or in your personal life, it's just a minor inconvenience. But when AI is touching your numbers at your job, the margin for error is completely different. We're talking about outputs that need to hold up for auditors or bank covenants, or what you're reporting to executives. Those mistakes just aren't an inconvenience. It costs you your credibility and maybe the company money, or depending on the error, it frankly can cost you your job. There's really no close enough in our world, and we just need to be very diligent on making sure that the foundations are right before we go down this AI journey. You can proceed now. So I want to get a little more specific when I say that these AI risks are different, because I don't want this to sound like a generic garbage in, garbage out that we've all heard. I mean, it's true, but it's a lot more nuanced than that. And I break it down into 3 primary things that need to happen when you apply, or that will happen when you apply AI to a shaky foundation. And these 3 things, they stack on top of each other and just compound from there. So the first one is, AI won't fix your foundational data set. If your chart of accounts has inconsistencies, maybe the same expense is coded differently across entities, or dimensions that don't map cleanly, the AI doesn't always flag that as a problem. It just learns it as the standard pattern, and then it reproduces it at scale automatically. And the thing about that is it doesn't slow down when something is inconsistent because it doesn't know. And so there's rarely a moment where it pauses and says, hey, wait, this doesn't seem right. Is this correct? Because it doesn't know half the time. The second thing is that the automation just scales the noise. And I think a lot of people just assume, hey, AI is the smartest thing, and it's going to smooth out all of our rough edges, and it's going to clean up our mess. But it really doesn't. All those messes just become a part of the output, and then output spreads its tentacles everywhere. And then by the time you need to correct something, it's too late, because AI is a lot of times spitting out these like beautiful reports, decks, everything looks polished and nice and becomes pretty easily trustworthy. But if you dig in, it could tell a different story if you don't have those governances in place. And then third, finance specifically, the impact compounds. A small misclassification, it doesn't stay small. It shows up in the forecast, and then it bleeds into all your management reports. And by the time someone catches it, it's already in 4 or 5 places downstream. And now you're not fixing one thing, you're unwinding this massive chain, all depending on what that incorrect number touched, whether it was a covenant calculation or compensation model, or whatever it might be, depending, the cost might be huge to unwind that problem. Because I think from comparing the old world to today, where we're going with AI, I think it's underestimated a lot, is pre-AI, in a manual pre-AI world, errors have natural checkpoints. A human reviews a number, something looks off, they flag it before it travels too far, and AI doesn't have that instinct to just flag something as being incorrect. There is no gut feeling. It just executes and goes and goes and goes. And those traditional safety nets that have always been there when humans were making a lot of decisions and doing a lot of the checks, they don't exist. It's not there. And you have to build all those checks and balances in deliberately. And again, that starts with a steady foundation, governed data set, and something that is ultimately reliable from the source. The old model was a human makes an error, a human catches it, and then that same human fixes it. AI changes that loop in a pretty significant way, and the speed at which that loop happens is significantly different. And unwinding that large-scale loop now is a lot harder. So to paint one more picture for you guys, and think about a company that's been on the same ERP for, call it 15 years. And over time, this chart of accounts has grew organically. Accounts got added when someone needed them. Naming conventions of the chart of accounts drifted a little bit. And maybe, in marketing, one entity calls something digital spend, another entity calls it advertising. And then maybe the third entity, that staff accountant, is splitting it based on an allocation of some type. And none of those procedures are wrong. It's every single person that touched it did what they thought was best, but there's no consistency. And now that same company wants to roll out a AI forecasting tool. The AI ingests years of historical data and years of inconsistent patterns and starts projecting forward. And it produces this really polished looking output. Like I said earlier, visuals look great. It looks great in a slide deck, but then underneath it, the way that digital spend was coded, it means 3 different things, and the AI had no idea. It treated everything as clean, consistent data. And now you've got this AI generated projection that the finance team is trying to explain, and the numbers just don't quite reconcile, and nobody can figure out why. And that can be very frustrating because it's not just a technical problem, it's organizational at that point. And the CFO is asking, hey, why is this forecast off? And the finance team is trying to reverse engineer outputs from a model that they hardly understand. The auditors are asking for documentation on how journal entries were booked. And the honest answer is a lot of times is we're not sure. And because the model learned from data that you didn't previously have governed, and it just becomes very uncomfortable for